Welcome back to MandoLessons Live. Hope you're all doing well, wherever you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening. I'm still waiting for somebody to tune in who's not even on a Saturday. So if it's not Saturday where you are, let me know. I'm going to do a quick little studio fix here and get that light to go away. That's better. Welcome. Hope you all are having a cool as possible, safe as possible Saturday. We got people all over the chat. It seems like there's a lot of folks here right off the bat, which is great to see. Welcome. If it's your first time, let me know in the chat. Say hello. Maybe you just got a mandolin. Maybe you've been playing forever. Let us know what you're interested in, all that sort of stuff. If you haven't been here before, the way these work is it's just an hour of Q&A. So if you've got questions, I've got answers, or maybe I don't have answers. Maybe I'll just make something up, but I'll do my best to answer any questions. Happy to take requests as long as it's not for something that's copyrighted. I work mostly in the fiddle tune world, so if you got questions on fiddle tunes, by all means. But it looks like maybe we'll be starting out with some jazz that'll really stretch my mind on a Saturday morning. Hope you got a cup of something delicious to hang out with me with here. We have Lindsay, Bluebird, Denise, Jim, Robert, Deirdre, Sheldon, Joe, Betsy, Jane, Lewis, Sherry, Robert, Jamie, oh, Mandolin Pirate, good to have you back, Peter, Edward, Sebastian, Brienne. Great. Looks like a lot of folks from all over. A lot of folks feeling the smoke and the heat. I'm right with you. It's been around 100 degrees and smoky here in Portland, Oregon. So I hope wherever you're at, you're staying cool and keeping your air as clean as possible. Let's make sure there's not missing anything in here. Excellent. Greetings from Bellingham. I was just hanging out with some former Bellinghamites. I don't know, what do you call people from Bellingham? Sam, maybe you know Sam and Laura, Deirdre. But now Portland folks who I was just playing tunes with yesterday and the day before. In any case, all right, Bluebird123 has a question about chord scale melodies, and specifically about chromatic chord scales. So I'll do my best. I'm not great on the chromatic stuff, but I'll kind of talk through it and see what I can figure out and see what I can noodle around and find. So the general idea of a chord scale melody is essentially, let's see, so we're talking about the key of C. So in the key of C, you got C in a scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you can turn each one of those notes into a chord. So you have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C. And so that's sort of, takes that scale, turns it all into chords. So I think of that as like kind of a chord scale. And now Bluebird has a question about the chromatic spots between that. So you can go like C, C sharp, D minor, then what would it be? D sharp minor. No, not, yeah, what would it, D sharp full diminished? What would that be? Yeah, here's where I really get E minor, F major, F sharp diminished. I'm really out of my... I would say try those diminished chords in the middle there. I really don't know exactly. I know, some of those, like that classic, that C to C sharp to D, that's a great classic diminished spot to use a diminished chord. But in terms of all of them, I really don't know. But it's definitely something to think about. And then my idea is to transition between chords using a chromatic chord scale like the 30s, 40s jazz. I mean, what I would say, a big part of that style is using condensed chord shapes, so don't feel like you need to play an A minor like that. You can throw in some color, like I mostly, especially when playing jazz, which I don't do a whole lot of to begin with, but In general, on the mandolin at all times, I pretty much stick to 2 and 3 note chords. So really condensing your chords down, figure out some nice kind of movable shapes. So for like an A minor chord, I might use this shape, which is 2, 5, 3. It's an A minor 7. So, you know, figuring out like where all of those chord tones are. I somehow have now switched to the key of G, but there you have it. Well, I'll go back to C. So like a 2-5-1 in C would be D minor, G7, C major, or C major 7. So we have a D minor 7. This is a great little minor 7 shape. We have C, F. So C is the 5th of the chord, F is the 3rd, and D. Sorry, C is too early to think about jazz for me. C is the flat 7 of the chord, F is the 3rd, D is the root. And you want to just find nice little clusters where you don't have to move too much to get to your next chord. So D minor 7, G7, you can turn just by moving from 5-3-5 to 4-3-5. You have B, F, D. B is the 3rd of your G, F is the flat 7, D is the 5th. And then C. So it becomes, or you can put that root back in. Or you can spice up that C chord to a C major 7. That B on the A string. Or you can make it a 6. 5-2 open. So lots of options. I say the big thing with that style is find those close-knit chords where you don't have to move too much to get between them, and have fun and experiment. Let's see. Catch up with the chat here. Great to see everyone. Nashville, SoCal, Indiana, Michigan. Dry but not so cool. Yeah, not so cool anywhere. I'm feeling a little sweaty sitting in front of these hot computer and lights to do this. But Silver Spear. Oh yeah, I didn't mention the tune that I played at the beginning. Great Irish reel called the Silver Spear, and it's the tune of the week. So we are going to jam around on that tune at the end of the hour. Miami, Hillsborough. Hope you're staying cool, Peter. Right down the road. Winchester, UK. From Mando Pirate. Currently non-smoky SLO. Good to see you, Edward. Poland. Excellent. Brianne from Lawrence, Kansas. Where we've had no fires but much of the smoke from elsewhere. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I hope everybody's staying out of the fires. Do I operate that studio single-handedly? I do. Well, two-handedly, playing mandolin, and then I have this little machine at my feet where I have buttons I can hit this one and it goes to the close camera, and that one and it goes to the wide camera. So I'm running that with my feet. 2 a.m. Sunday in Tokyo. Okay, so we need some folks from Tokyo to come on. We need some Japanese night owls for somebody to be in here on a Sunday. Detroit. Mandolin Pirate says, last week you played Whiskey Before Breakfast a few times, and it sounded fuller and more melodious than your standard tab single notes. How do you manage this? That's a great question. I've got some lessons on my website. I don't know if there's really like a name for it. I call it like filling out a melody. There's a bunch of different things you can do. So I think of it as like having the basic kind of melody or tab or single notes. I call that like the skeleton of the melody, which would be like, So that's what I would call like the skeleton of the melody. And there's a couple things. I have a lot of lessons on my website called Simple to Complex, and that's sort of working on kind of in real time, working on a bunch of the skills that I have in the techniques and fundamentals section of my website, where I go over various aspects of kind of filling out that melody, adding a little meat to the skeleton. It's kind of a weird way to think about it, but so there's a bunch of different things you can do. You can add drone strings. So in the key of D, you got a nice D string to drone on, and the A string sounds good to drone on too. Adds a little kind of fill into it to make it kind of stand out on its own a little better as a single instrument playing the tune. You can get your right hand, what I call getting your right hand moving, where kind of get this straight wooga chucka, I call it. Get a little swing and kind of constant down up in your right hand. Combine that with some of those those drone strings. And then you can do like melodic variation, which I love to do with Whiskey Before Breakfast. It's still clearly Whiskey Before Breakfast, but you're playing around with some scale pattern ideas, arpeggios, things like that. And that'll really that'll get you going. There's lots of lessons on my website about all that stuff. And I'm currently in the middle of a improv series that's now like 12 lessons long. And then there's more to come because there's always more to think about when it comes to improvisation. But all that kind of comes together into how I like to play fiddle tunes. Yep, D minor 7 to G, satin doll. Totally. Yeah, that's sort of the building block. Yeah, like 1, 4, 5 for folk music and like country music and pop music and bluegrass, all that stuff. A lot of American music is based on the 1, 4, and 5 chords, but jazz, the building blocks are really that 2, 5, 1 sound. Lewis says all this jazz talk is jumping right into the deep end early. Yeah, it's good for me. I don't think about jazz all that much, and I sort of know what I'm doing, but not all that much, so I appreciate the questions about it because it makes me think about it again. I studied jazz in college, but that was a decade ago. All right, so I think I've caught up. If I missed any of the, kind of started out with a bang in the comments there, so if I missed your question, by all means throw it back in, or if you have a request you want to hear. Oh, I just saw one. Mando Pirate says, I'd love to hear you play Fisher's Hornpipe. I'll do that. Let's keep the chat running. Put in the chat, how long while I'm playing this, how long you been playing mandolin? A day? Maybe you don't even have a mandolin. Maybe you're thinking about getting one. Maybe you've been playing all your life. Put it in the chat while I play a little Fisher's Hornpipe. Alright, there's a little Fisher's hornpipe, and now I'm out of tune. I'm gonna tune for a second here, and then I saw a request for Forked Deer, which I'm always happy to play if I can remember how it goes. Alright, close enough. Forked Deer. Forked Deer. There it is. Didn't end on the right key there, but that's a tune I don't play very much. Forked Deer, great name. Love the name of that tune. All right, great to see everybody chiming in with how long they've been playing. Man, let's see, just about a year from Mando Pirate. 1984. That's amazing. 3 years. But did fiddle before, so it's easier to pick up. Yeah, mandolin is often not people's first instrument. It was my first instrument, but I feel like people usually come from maybe fiddle or guitar. Edward with a year. Excellent. Keep at it. Mando for a year. More serious in the pandemic. Kentucky KM 150. Great way to start. Will you be starting up some clawhammer, banjo, and or tenor guitar lessons in the future? Probably not. There's great clawhammer resources out there already. I learned clawhammer from clawhammerbanjo.net. Josh Turknett, Brain Joe, kind of all goes by a bunch of different names. I really love his stuff. He's got a whole mess of resources for learning how to play. And there's also a lot of other stuff just kind of floating around on YouTube. And then tenor guitar, I have a website called tenorguitarlessons.com, and it's got a little introduction to the tuning that I play in on tenor guitar, G, D, A, D, which is just the E strings down to D, equivalent of the mandolin. And I just don't have time to keep up with all the websites. But it is fun, and I think just play if you're interested in GDAD tuning and tenor guitar style stuff. There's a couple books out there. The late great John McGann has a book on like Irish bouzouki playing, and anything you look up that's Irish bouzouki is gonna relate to GDAD tenor guitar style. Yeah. So too many cool instruments, not enough time to make lessons about them all. What do you all want to see from? What kind of lessons would you like to see? Again, no copyrighted stuff, but if I could make your dream lesson, what would it be? Put that in the chat too, and I'll try to keep up. Maybe I'm asking more questions than I can keep up with, but it's just where I'm at today. Amanda's been at it 3 weeks. Awesome. Lindsay, 2 years. Lewis, 1979. Excellent. Blu-ray has a question about the black discs. Yes, good eye. So, yeah, I've got, in a couple places, I've got these little rubber grommets right there. And let's see if we can get it in the light. You can see up here. And those, yeah, that just stops the strings from ringing out and kind of buzzing. Kind of focuses the sound a little bit. They're not required, but if you are having kind of problems with buzzing, what you can always do, what I like to do is like, I'll put my hand, it's a little awkward, but like if you think there's a buzz coming from down here, you can like put your hand there or mute with like kind of the palm of your hand and just strum the strings. And if you, when you're muting it, if you don't get buzzes, and then when you're not muting it and you do get buzzes, that's a good way to kind of figure out where buzzing's come from. The buzzing is coming from, and it can come from down here, up here, less often up here, but sometimes that's sort of how I got in the habit. But yes, good eye on that. Mando Pirate says, 6 months ago, I made a YouTube channel where I record my progress and improvement. Awesome. That's great. I've done that sort of thing as well. That's a good way to, if you're into that kind of thing, it's a good way to keep yourself motivated. Just picked it up after many years away. Forgot how much strength the mandolin requires in the fretting hand compared to guitar. Yeah, these double strings make it a lot more tension going on there. Brand says, started last year. Yep, pandemic. Nice, soul music. Should be playing Barry. Yeah, Barry. I would love to learn how to play Barry sax. Music theory. Sherry's wondering about music theory, knowing and remembering the different modes, Dorian, Mixolydian, etc. Yeah, that's an interesting nut to crack. It's something that I think a lot of the music theory that I learned, I took some music theory classes in college, but ultimately I don't really know how much they helped me, because it was all, like if you go to a music theory class, it's probably going to be classical music, which doesn't really, at least for me, doesn't relate too much to the folk music that I learn, or that I like to play. You can also have, there's jazz theory, which again isn't folk music theory. And I think for, kind of fiddle tunes and bluegrass and like American folk music in general, there's really a pretty small subset of information that you need to know. And then you kind of keep repeating that. I think the way that I've learned the most useful music theory is really like, you need to have a firm foundation of like understanding what it is you know, and where you kind of like, okay, this makes sense, but this doesn't. And it's just sort of, I think, as people have like kind of thrown music theory language around in my presence, it's just kind of always just kind of like bounces right off my brain. It's like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Over and over and over again. And then at some point something will click a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard somebody say that enough, and I've done enough with my kind of left hand on the instrument to really figure out kind of how that's connected. And pretty much through that repetition of people saying like, 1, 4, 5 are chords, and 1, 3, 5 is how you build a scale, or sorry, is how you build a chord, and then the 1, 4, 5 create the chord progression, things like that. And then with modes, modes is interesting because the way I like to think about modes, and I've talked about this a couple times, but I always like to think about it again, in the context of folk music, of like kind of often traditional Irish music, is thinking about the instruments that play the music. So you'll often have like a whistle or uilleann pipes, the Irish bagpipes. They're in the key of D. So that's sort of like having, like the white keys on the piano or the key of C. For a whistle, it's easy if you just like go right down the tube. I don't play whistle, so that's probably not the way to talk about it. But you get a D scale. But then with modes, so it's like ostensibly you don't have other notes. Like you don't have a C natural hole on a whistle. You can get it through half-holing and kind of other whistly tricks that, again, I'm not a whistle player, so I'm just kind of saying what I've heard. But what if you take those same notes, so it's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, but you start and end on E. Sounds minor. So that's actually the Dorian mode. It's E Dorian, which is the same notes as D Ionian. D Ionian being just D major. So you can get all of these different modes. So then if you go, I don't remember which that one is. That Locrian? There's no tunes really in that key. Maybe there are. So that's G, that'd be Lydian. Again, not many tunes in Lydian. Starting and ending on A. Very, very close to A major. But then that G, instead of being G sharp, you have G natural. And that's A Mixolydian is the name of that mode. Again, all the notes of a D major scale, just starting and ending on A, and you have tunes that are in A Mixolydian, E minor, and D major are all classic keys for Irish music because they all use the notes of the D major scale because of the Irish pipes and whistle and instruments that are in kind of the D key. And then you add in a C natural, which is, again, not a hole on a whistle, but you can half hole to get a C natural, and then you get a G scale by G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and then you can kind of modify that to get A minor or A Dorian, D Mixolydian, things like that. So hopefully, again, anytime I talk about theory, just let it wash over you. If it makes sense, great. If not, I'm in that boat too. But the more you hear it, the more likely it is that some little kernel will click. Joe started in 1978 in an orchestra setting. Very cool. Temperance Reel, yes, I would love to do it. That's been on my list for a long time. I can't remember. I don't play that tune, so it never is at the top of my memory. I can kind of follow it when I hear other people play it, but I should get that one under my fingers. Nice. Jane recently picked up tenor guitar. Super fun. Arpeggios. So I think we're in the lesson request. Arpeggios for different chord shapes. Great idea. Difference between a tenor guitar and an octave mandolin. So that's the whole world of like large mandolin family instruments and tuning is kind of messy. Ultimately, I think of an wait, what was the question? Octave. So octave mandolin has 8 strings, tuned G, D, A, E. Then you could call an octave mandolin a bouzouki if. Sometimes people just tune them G, D, A, E. Often maybe if it's more of like a flat top, flat back instrument, they might call it a bouzouki versus something that, you know, looks like a carved bluegrass style mandolin, but bigger. That would probably be an octave mandolin. Bouzouki can have the same tuning. It can be tuned G, D, A, D. You can also have kind of octave strings like you would on a 12-string guitar. So one string in your course is 1 octave and one is an octave higher. Get that kind of 12-string guitar sound. Tenor guitar is a little more specific. This is a tenor guitar. Only has 4 strings. And you can tune them. The kind of traditional tenor guitar tuning is C, G, D, A, which is more like it's a viola tuning equivalent. And this comes from, there were tenor banjos, which were popular in the turn of the 1900s. In that C, G, D, A tuning used for a lot of jazz. And then guitar became popular and banjo became less popular. So there are all these banjo players out of work, and somebody was like, hey, let's just put a 4-string tenor banjo neck on a guitar body, and voila, tenor guitar. And then then you can also, some people tune them like a big ukulele, which would be D, G, B, E, like a baritone ukulele. You can tune it like a octave mandolin. And I tune tenor guitars G, D, A, D. I like the backup fiddle tunes. Whoa, I've noticed, I hope my sound hasn't been terrible for the fiddle tunes. I just noticed my mic wasn't pointed towards me. Apologies if the sound has been weird. So that's how I like to use a tenor guitar. So tenor guitar has 4 strings, but can have the same tuning as an octave mandolin or a bouzouki, which have 8 strings. I like that. I'm gonna have to come back and write down some of these lessons. Dream lesson, a bunch of examples of specific double stops. Love it. Ursanos, good to have you here. Good morning. How to make up your own simple melody. Ooh, I like that. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how to teach that. That's kind of in like the world of improvisation and then remembering what you did. Do you find the mandolin armrest is important for your technique or just an accessory? It is not. I don't think it's super important. I got into the habit because I had a mandolin that was really sharp on the edges and it was just kind of like uncomfortable for my arm. But, so I got in the habit that way. I think it does do a little bit for me. Just kind of, I feel like it puts my hand in like the right spot. But it's nothing that if I didn't have an armrest, I couldn't play. I've got instruments without armrests. Play them totally fine. But I've just kind of gotten in the habit. Not a requirement, but some people like them, some people don't. It's been a lot of great music played on a mandolin without an armrest. Real La Castonguay, that's a great tune. It's a great Quebec tune. Great, one of my favorite Quebecois tunes of all time. Oh yeah, I hope everybody's out there. Mando Pirate says, anybody got a mandolin in hand? I hope all of you got mandolin in hand and jamming along and noodling around and having a good time. That's what it's all about. Improve, pull off on mandolin. Any advice? Yes, so pull offs on mandolin. I think I have lessons on my website that you can check out. But the idea with a pull-off, for a long time, so hammer-ons and pull-offs kind of go hand in hand, where a hammer-on is you're hammering on with a different finger. So I'm using 2nd to 5th fret on the E string as an example. So that's a hammer-on. And for a long time, my pull-off would just be like the opposite of a hammer-on. Just pulling off, like releasing my finger. But I think a good way to get a nice strong sound on a pull-off is to actually pull your finger to the side a little bit. So you're actually like pulling kind of against the string to make it sound. So you can see my hand kind of go sideways versus just going. So getting used to that kind of pull, the pull of the pull-off, escaped me for a very long time. I wasn't really kind of pulling to the side. But that's a good way to get a nice strong sound from pull-off. Great question. Arsenaut says, recorded myself for the first time this past week. Sounds weird listening to a recording of yourself. Yes, that is very true. You get used to it. I mean, I'm still not 100% used to it, but I've been recording myself for decades now, and still weird. I've gotten a lot more used to it, and you get a lot more comfortable with it. But there's something about it that's definitely a little weird. Yes, recording yourself can be good for learning and hearing your progress. I totally agree. Greetings from Idaho. Tim, good to have you here. Hope you're staying cool and smoke-free. Yeah, some people will play Greek bouzouki, the big kind of like giant bowl back, long neck thing. And so that actually made its way into, so that's the Greek bouzouki, is that bowl back long scale instrument. And in Greek music, I don't know what the tuning is off the top of my head, but it's not octave mandolin style. But a lot of, you can definitely tune them G-D-A-E. A lot of Irish musicians will tune it G-D-A-D. So there were some Irish musicians in the 70s who went to Greece on vacation, heard the bouzouki in a Greek context, and were like, hey, got to get one of those and bring it back and back up some fiddle tunes. And it kind of made its way into that Irish tradition that way. Yep, and then Bluebird says 4-string banjo is popular in Irish traditional music and Dixieland jazz. Yeah, so that's another interesting kind of instrument, kind of getting into the Irish tradition, is the tenor banjo was being used in kind of New Orleans style jazz around the turn of the century, and then it kind of went from, so banjo is an African instrument that then made it to America, and then from America got into the Irish tradition when people started tuning them like an octave below a mandolin. All right, catch up with the chat here. I love all the energy in the chat. That's great. Backing tracks with the tenor guitar for common fiddle tunes. I have a lot of those. If you look on, I kind of go back and forth between tenor guitar and 6-string guitar, but all my play-along tracks on my website that you can find through the Bandcamp page and stream, those are all recorded with sometimes tenor guitar, sometimes 6-string guitar. Larry says, having switched from guitar to mandolin, finding it much harder to accompany myself at an open mic. Suggestions? Yeah, I mean, the mandolin's never going to be as kind of full and lush as a guitar. You know, it's much kind of brighter, it's higher pitched. But there's a lot of good stuff you can do. You know, I'd say start with kind of guitar style strum. And then from there, you know, you can get into some kind of cross picking. And then some kind of moving chord shapes. While you're singing. That's kind of a lot to do at once. A couple real masters of that. In Irish tradition, look up Andy Irvine, amazing multi-instrumentalist. He does some amazing mandolin and vocal stuff that always is blowing my mind. And I mean, watch Chris Thiele. Watch what he does while he plays and sings, and he's got full facility of whatever he wants to do on the instrument while singing whatever he wants. Really incredible. But yes, great question. Trumpet hornpipe. I do not know that tune. I'll have to look it up. Oh yeah, Real Castonguay is definitely Denise's favorite. And my favorite too. It's great. That's a great one. And I'm glad that you latched onto it, Denise. All right, Johan from the Netherlands. Good to have you here. Wow. All right, there's a big... I don't know what's the collective noun for super chats, but there's a lot of them right now. Joe, Edward, and Brianne, thank you so much for the super chat support. Helps me do these live streams. There's a bunch of different ways people support me, and it's all greatly appreciated, not required, but I really appreciate it. There's the super chat. I just want to make sure I'm not... Let's get these super chats going. Thank you, Joe, for starting the thing off here. And Edward for keeping it running. And Brianne says, my tablet always paying the 99 cents instead of the full amount. Love that you do these live sessions, though. Yeah, I love doing them, and thank you all for supporting. Whether it's super chats, there's a bunch of folks from Patreon here in the chat. Patrons also get patron-only live streams, which I think is going to be next weekend for patrons. So keep an eye out for that. There's links in the description to everything. Patreon, PayPal. I've got some merch if you need. This is actually not my merch. This is actually a mug from my good friend Neil Perlman's podcast, now sort of podcast record label, everything umbrella project called Trad Cafe, which you should definitely check out. It's an amazing podcast with interviewing a lot of traditional musicians. Tim says, suggestions for increasing speed. I play in several groups, but often have to resort to chords when fiddle player leads it off. Yeah, I mean, speed is something that really, it takes time. You can't make big leaps in speed. You need to be nice and relaxed. I think know where your speed limit is a great thing to know. So, play with a metronome, get a click going where you can play really nice and relaxed. Play through a tune 3 times without making a mistake or getting too tight, and say, okay, there we go. It's 100 beats per minute, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of know where you're at, and from there, notch it up a little bit at that time. Go to like 102, 2 beats per minute faster. You're not even really going to notice. It's very kind of imperceptible, but just working really slowly up from where your baseline speed is. That's a great way to get into slowly ratcheting up the speed. All right. Trumpet hornpipe was used as the theme tune to Captain Pugwash. I also don't know Captain Pugwash. I got a lot to do after we get off the old live stream here. Most of the time, I stay on the bottom 3 strings to accompany myself. Learned that from Mando. Yeah, I'm always preaching about kind of bottom 3 strings. So you can get a lot, kind of the less strings you play. This is going back to the accompaniment question and singing. The less strings you play, the more exciting you can be with your right hand. So if you're playing full chords and just going, and then trying to sing over this, your voice is going to get a little muddy and hard to hear. But as you if you go down to just 2 strings, just the G and D, your voice really gets to be a lot more audible, and your right hand can still do a lot of stuff. Whereas if you're playing big chords, you probably need to go and then let your voice ring out, let it ring out, put all kinds of space in the chords. Whereas if you can be nice and energetic, but only playing a couple strings, and not end up drowning yourself out. How about adding space while playing? Playing on offbeats while singing. So, yeah, that's also a good thing on that, like the classic bluegrass chop. Then we're singing songs in the bluegrass style, and the chords are on the offbeat. It's a very percussive style, and it leaves a lot of room for the singing and the other instruments in the ensemble. Yeah. All good. Yeah, there's a million different ways to I'd say just experiment, figure out what you like the sound of, listen to other mandolin players and how they're backing themselves up. Listen to like Tim O'Brien. He's got a great mandolin and singing style. Thank you all for the super chats that keep rolling in. Music Mouse 25, thank you so much. Lindsay, thank you so much. Amanda, thank you so much. Have you put up a lesson on how to use a metronome for practice? I don't know if I have. That is a great question. The speed limit in California, typically 60 miles an hour. It's true. You want to stay below the speed limit. And Uncle Bobby, thank you for the super chat. I don't know if let me look. I'll see if I do have a metronome lesson. I kind of feel like I don't, which I definitely should. I know I talk about... Oh yeah, I have a whole series apparently. Using a metronome, part 1, part 2, part 3. If you just like search metronome on MandoLessons. This must be from a while ago. Let's see, when did I make this? Oh yeah, it's 4 years ago. It would be fun to maybe... I should revisit those and see what I talked about and see if there's anything to add to it. Tamlin. All right. So yeah, I'll play Tamlin, and then let's all play Silver Spear together, and then we'll call it a day. So here's a little Tamlin, great tune. Here's a little bit of Tamlin, also known as the Glasgow Reel. Glasgow. As you can tell, I'm not from Scotland. All right. Oh, it's a very kind offer, Brianne. It says, make a one-of-a-kind MandoLessons mug. Love it. I would be honored to sip coffee from such a thing. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for the super chats, for the good times, the great questions. Really love doing these things. Let's play a little bit of Silver Spear. Uh-oh. Gotta cheat and look it up. Nope, that's not it either. Too many Irish tunes in the key of D. Can't keep them straight. Alright, Silver Spear. How does this tune go? Sheet music. Yeah. Oh, nah. There it is. Cool. So the way this works, let's just pass it back and forth. Maybe you've never played this tune before. That's fine. just see if you can pick up a couple notes from me, or just have fun kind of chording along. It's a reel. It's in the key of D. We won't go too fast. If you ever want to change the speed, either up or down, just wait for this video to kind of process through YouTube, and then you can come back and use the gear icon in the corner to speed it up or slow it down. And yeah, we'll have fun with it. We'll pass it back and forth. I'll start out playing the melody. You play the chords, and then I'll play the melody, or I'll play the chords while you play the melody. All right, maybe a little slower than that, but 1, 2, and also somebody can remind me what next week's tune is going to be. I feel like we already talked about it. If anyone can remember what we decided on for next week's tune, throw it in the chat, or maybe just throw a request in there and I'll pick something. So here we go, a little bit of Silver Spear. 1, 2, I'll play the melody, you chord. Thanks, Tim, for the super chat. A2. Take the melody. Sorry, I got spaced out. Here comes A2. Here we go. B. B2. I'll take it. Go for it. D part. Let's all play it together. Here we go. Going out. All right, a little bit of whatever that tune is. Silver Spear. Tune names don't tend to stick around. Thanks again, Tim, for that super chat during the jam. Appreciate it. Thank you, Betsy, for the reminder that next week's tune to jam along with, Jim Shank, one of my favorite old-time tunes of all time. Get the idea. That's a tune anyone can grab onto this tune. So look it up, learn it. If you don't know it already, you can totally get it within the week. It's very repetitive, pretty straight ahead tune, and we'll have fun with it next week. Thank you all so much for another great hour. Stay warm. Stay cool. Stay cool, stay safe, stay smoke free. Play a lot of mandolin while we're cooped up. And I'll see y'all soon. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.